referring to Gar Forman with the Bulls. Is this a good, bad, or ugly deal?
It depends on who you're talking about. If it's for the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's a very, very good day. You get an all-star in Jimmy Butler, who played for Tom Thibodeau for 4 years, who became a most improved player, as well as an all-star and a second-team all-defensive player under Tom Thibodeau, who never wanted Tom Thibodeau to leave. Let's make sure we remember all of those things. And then when you can collaborate him with Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns, first of all, from your 2 and 3 positions, you've got defenders, you have experience, and a guy that goes out and gets it in an all-star like Jimmy Butler. This is a tremendous plus, a grade A for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it's absolutely shocking that Tom Thibodeau pulled this off, considering he was negotiating with the team who fired him a couple of years ago, unceremoniously, I might add, and who there's no love lost between these two sides. So the fact that he pulled off such a one-sided deal, I mean, I just can't say enough about the job Tom Thibodeau did in this particular situation. I am a fan of Zach LaVine, a big-time fan, averaged better than 18 points, slam dunk champion. He can be electrifying and sensational, has a tremendous upside. The problem with Zach LaVine is he's coming off an ACL injury. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. Chris Dunn was incredibly disappointing as a rookie. The jury is still out on him. We shouldn't poo-poo him and act like he can't play and he's not going to have a good NBA career, but we have to acknowledge that his rookie campaign under Tom Thibodeau was far less than stellar. Then when you get to this kid marketing, yeah, he could shoot threes, but he can't guard me or Max for that matter, and Max got back issues. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's just not a good thing with Chicago. But here's what makes it worse and flat out ugly for the Chicago Bulls. You are in this predicament where you're talking about youth and you're talking about patience and all of this other stuff. You are in this position because you let go of Tom Thibodeau because you couldn't get along with him. You see, at the end of the day, we have executives in this league who are putting their personal feelings above a franchise, the health of a franchise, and more importantly, what the fans
Before I even address what say the thing I wanted to say, I want to address your point right there, right now. I just want to explain to GMs in every single sport what fans think of you, especially when they hear that you chased out some star because he was difficult for you to get along with. General managers and executives throughout the leagues of all the major American team sports, let me be very clear. Listen to me very carefully. We don't care. Fans do not care. If you have to work and a guy's difficult and as a result you expire because of that, no fans care about you as long as the team is good. So if it's about you having to not sleep and wind up with migraine headaches and you wind up with a stroke because this guy is giving you such agita, if he's a star, to hell with you. Nobody cares about you. I'm so glad you made that point, Stephen A. It's something that drives me crazy. Since I was a little kid, the GM, he couldn't get along with the star player. Oh, really? Tell the GM where he can get off, even thinking that way. Whatever. No one cares about your mental
well, in this case, Max,
physical health.
In this case, Max, it was the coach. It was Paxson and Foreman not getting along with Thibodeau.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's the same point that you just made.
Right.
I love the fact that you said it can't be said enough. The trade itself. Oh my God, did Chicago get punched in their face? I would hate to be a Bulls fan today. You gave up. Look, the history of the NBA is this. The winner of the trade is the team that gets the best player. That's it. The marginal utility of a star, in other words, you take a replacement player in the NBA, oh, that's an NBA player. The value of that guy is whatever. Even a rotation player, which has some value. The value of a star in the NBA, it is a star league. The stars are the only guys who win championships. The only one. Like, you need to find those guys. If you don't have those guys, not that they're the only guys that win championships, but if you don't have them, forget it. Forget it. I don't care how good your system is. Jimmy Butler has transformed himself into a two-way star, NBA star. And what did you get for him? A bunch of flotsam. Dunn was so bad they couldn't get rid of Marco Rubio. He played Marco Rubio back into like an essential piece on that team.
That's a good point.
Look, LaVine has hops. LaVine has hops. There's no doubt about it, Stephen A. And he has some offensive talent. He's a one-way player coming off an injury, I actually think with limited upside as a result of his defense. And when I originally heard the deal, I was at the draft last night. When I originally heard the deal, I heard that they got the 16th and the 7th pick. In other words, I heard the Bulls got 2 draft picks, and I still thought, boy, they got ripped off. And then I heard they had to just trade up, so they gave up their pick to get to 7, and Jimmy Butler. Boy, the Bulls are fools. Now, look, you say, well, Klay Thompson was drafted 11th, you know, Steph Curry 7th. You can always find Kawhi Leonard late. You can always find a guy like that. Yes, but the odds are very low that you get that guy. So the chances that an organization stupid enough to make this trade is smart enough then to identify the hidden talent in the draft are even more remote than the normal odds, which would suggest which are remote. Add to that, Stephen A., that Jimmy Butler gets $17 million this upcoming year. I think then $18 million. You got him locked up for 2 more years.
That's correct.
The max contract's now $30 million something dollars. So you have Jimmy Butler, a legitimate two-way star player, good enough to be, say, the second best player on a championship team, who has Karl Anthony Towns, by the way. And he's being paid almost half max contract. That itself has tremendous value. Tom Thibodeau just came off on Chicago.
Well,
if I was a Chicago sports fan right now, I'd be steaming mad.
Couple of points, Max, before we end this segment that I feel I'd be remiss in neglecting. A, you have to remember, like I reported last week, they were talking to the Boston Celtics once Boston elected to trade from number 1 to number 3, Jen, up to the down to the number 3 slot. Boston willing to give up 2 first-round picks. Chicago passed on that and elected to make the deal with Minnesota. Let's make sure we remember that, because that's been reported, okay?
Why do you think?
Well, because it wasn't smart. That's why it wasn't smart on the part of the Chicago Bulls. That's number 1. Number 2, and more importantly, to juxtapose the position between Thibodeau with Gar Forman and John Paxson, let's think about Mark Jackson, who should be a coach. He's our colleague here at ESPN and ABC, doing a great job. Should absolutely, positively be a head coach in the NBA right now. I've always been opposed to Joe Lacob getting rid of Mark Jackson, which everybody and their grandma knows. But here's the difference between what Golden State did and what Chicago did. Golden State said, okay, there may be relationship issues here. He may work somewhere else, but we think his time up. His time here has expired, as in Mark Jackson. So what do? Instead of Mark Jackson, they get a 5-time champion as a player who was also an executive for the Phoenix Suns, okay? And now you gave him an opportunity to coach. And if you hadn't given it to him, Phil Jackson and the New York Knicks, Steve Kerr was their first coach. That's entirely different than what Gar Forman and Paxson did, because you got an exceptional coach like Thibodeau, and you decide to do away with him, who's proven to be exceptional. Do away with him. No problem there. You have that right. But your answer is Fred Hoiberg, who some say is a great third assistant in the NBA. Now, I'm not disrespecting him, because the man knows basketball, and nobody's questioning that. But the relatively nice guy and what have you, a lot of people think that he's more suitable for college or an assistant coach in the NBA. So there's a difference between what Golden State did and what Chicago did. That's the difference, and that's what needs to be pointed out.
I just want to quickly add to that.
Go ahead.
I want to quickly add to that. Golden State, it wasn't simply they're not getting along with Mark Jackson. He's creating a paranoid culture. I mean, from their point of view, maybe what's been reported.
Yeah.
But also, there were certain things you could say, what is the upside here? For example, they were basically last in the league in assists, stuff, or passes, stuff like that. And they wanted a more dynamic offense. Okay, fine. Same thing with Thibodeau. As good as he was, I felt he burnt out his teams, played his guys too many minutes. By the time they got to the playoffs, they were done. So, okay, in both Jackson and Thibodeau's case, you have good coaches, and you think maybe it's a dead end, maybe we need to go in a different direction. And the difference is one team replaced him with a well-thought-out coach who fit into their philosophy, and they believe they can take it to the next level with, and the other team replaced him with a guy they thought they could get along with, which goes back, Stephen A., to your original point. Forget about what makes it easier for you in the front office. Do what makes the team best, and not enough teams, for whatever reason, make that decision.
Jimmy Butler has